As Taiwan's military hailed the F-16V as an aerial fortress, a sudden nighttime crash into the sea forced us to ask a pointed question: is this highly anticipated fighter jet a mythical illusion, or a truly reliable defensive shield? On January 6, 2026, as darkness shrouded the Taiwan Strait, an F-16V fighter jet with serial number 6700 vanished from radar screens during routine night training. Though Captain Shin Bei ejected at the last moment, he plunged into the frigid, turbulent Pacific Ocean and remains missing to this day. The timing of this incident is particularly sensitive. Just days prior, the PLA conducted large-scale integrated exercises around the Taiwan Strait, with fighter jets frequently advancing to exert sustained pressure on Taiwan's air defense systems. Some analysts suggest PLA aircraft may have been conducting simulated lock-on maneuvers or electromagnetic interference at the time of the accident. This incident is significant not only because a life hangs in the balance, but also because it abruptly peels back the veil on the modern air combat capabilities Taiwan's military has long meticulously cultivated. In reality, despite bearing the upgraded designation F-16V, the aircraft involved had endured nearly 3 decades of high-intensity service. In the island's persistently high temperature, high humidity, and high salinity environment, latent issues like metal fatigue, aging wiring, and system obsolescence had accumulated like hidden ailments. Even with enhanced avionics and weaponry, these upgrades could not fundamentally counteract the risks inherent in the aircraft's natural deterioration. The crash occurred during a complex night training exercise, further exposing deep-seated vulnerabilities in human-machine coordination. On one hand, the Taiwanese military has intensified training intensity to counter the PLA's increasingly routine patrols and exercises, leaving pilots under prolonged high-stress conditions with significant psychological pressure. On the other hand, while the F-16V features upgraded active, phased-array radar and advanced avionics, it lacks critical safety systems like automatic collision avoidance. This leaves pilots entirely reliant on personal judgment and reflexes during low-visibility operations or sudden control failures. With extremely limited margin for error, historical data reveals that the safety record of Taiwan's F-16 fleet has long been concerning. Since its introduction in the 1990s, multiple crashes have occurred. Combined with other aircraft types like the IDF, Mirage 2000, and even the retired F-5E, this paints a picture of an aging fleet plagued by frequent accidents. Despite repeated pledges by Taiwan's defense authorities to enhance training safety and accelerate aircraft modernization, these efforts remain constrained by budgetary limitations, heavy reliance on foreign arms purchases, and structural conflicts in defense resource allocation. Particularly noteworthy is the immense pressure faced by Taiwan's pilots. They must counter the PLA Air Force's intensifying combat-ready drills in the Taiwan Strait while maintaining so-called air superiority within limited airspace. With limited aircraft types and constrained training resources, this pressure translates into both physical and psychological burdens, potentially affecting operational details and risk assessments. While the final investigation is pending, whether this nighttime crash into the sea was related to delayed judgment or operational errors under high stress has become a reasonable focus of external scrutiny. Moreover, the Taiwan authorities have heavily staked their air defense hopes on foreign military purchases, particularly the acquisition of more advanced F-16C, D Block 70-72 fighters from the United States. However, repeated delays in the U.S. delivery schedule have increasingly exposed the Taiwan Air Force's predicament of a gap in combat capabilities. The F-16V upgrade program was intended as a transitional pillar, but its actual effectiveness and reliability are increasingly being questioned under the rigorous demands of real combat environments and high-frequency missions. The timing of this accident, occurring shortly after the PLA concluded a large-scale island encircling exercise, has sparked speculation. Could the intensified training pace necessitated by countering PLA activities have indirectly led to equipment and personnel overload? In reality, the Taiwanese military already faces a strategic disadvantage against the PLA's rapidly advancing integrated and information-based combat capabilities. Placing excessive symbolic confidence in the upgrade of a single aircraft model risks obscuring the fundamental fragility of its overall defense system. From a broader perspective, the crash of the F-16V fighter jet is not merely an isolated aviation incident, but rather a microcosm of Taiwan's defense predicament: reliance on outdated external platforms for upgrades, limited indigenous maintenance capabilities, an overburdened training system, and the accumulation of security risks stemming from heightened combat readiness amid geopolitical tensions. The key to peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait lies in upholding the One China principle and avoiding any military adventurism that could lead to miscalculations and conflict. While fighter jets can be upgraded, straying from the path of peaceful development and cross-strait relations and persistently pouring resources into feudal arms races will only continually expose the weaknesses in Taiwan's defense system and deepen the unpredictability of its security environment. The fate of the missing pilot is deeply regrettable, yet the underlying warning demands deeper reflection. True security never rests on illusory myths of weaponry, but stems from rational choices that confront reality, reject confrontation, and return to peaceful development. A closer examination of the F-16V's technical specifications reveals that while its upgrade package includes the a PG-83AES, a radar, new mission computers, and cockpit displays, these enhancements primarily focus on situational awareness and attack capabilities. Limited investment has been made in structural reinforcement and automatic protection systems, elements critical to flight safety, particularly during high-intensity, high-frequency interception and training missions. The aging flight control systems and airframe structures endure loads far exceeding design expectations, compounded by maintenance constraints at Taiwan's island bases. Limited by environmental conditions and technical capabilities, many micro-cracks or systemic vulnerabilities may not be detected during routine inspections. Moreover, nighttime maritime flights inherently carry high risks. Without terrain following or collision avoidance systems, pilots face near impossible odds of reacting correctly within split seconds when encountering spatial disorientation or sudden mechanical failures. While the Taiwanese military emphasizes upgraded beyond visual range combat capabilities and precision maritime strikes to bolster deterrence, it deliberately downplays inherent flaws in sustained sortie rates, survivability, and pilot safety support. From a strategic perspective, this accident occurred against the backdrop of an intensifying regional arms race. The Taiwan authorities continuously amplify the narrative of a mainland military threat to justify accelerated arms upgrades. However, the reality is that regardless of the equipment introduced or modified, it cannot alter the fundamental reality of the increasingly lopsided military balance across the Taiwan Strait. The PLA Air Force has fully transitioned into an era dominated by fifth-generation fighters like the J-20, J-16, and J-10C, complemented by fourth-and-a-half-generation aircraft, establishing a comprehensive airspace integrated combat system supported by advanced information technology. In contrast, the Taiwanese military still relies primarily on upgraded third-generation fighters, which are limited in number and lack robust system support. Facing a systematic, information-based air force, their survivability and combat effectiveness in large-scale conflicts are severely constrained. More critically, security and stability in the Taiwan Strait region cannot be sustained by a few star weapons alone. History repeatedly demonstrates that relying on external arms sales and adversarial deployments for self-protection only escalates tensions, invites miscalculations, and ultimately pushes the region toward uncontrollable risks. This incident also reflects deep-seated issues within the RCAF's internal management and training culture. Under political manipulation, the Taiwanese military is often assigned unrealistic symbolic missions, such as frequent responses to PLA aircraft patrols, leaving pilots exhausted and equipment overused. Training sometimes sacrifices fundamental skills and safety margins in pursuit of political showmanship. The disappearance of pilot Xin Beiyi is not only a personal tragedy, but an inevitable cost of this distorted defense policy. Should the Taiwan authorities persist in disregarding fundamental principles of personnel safety and equipment maintenance while blindly pursuing military displays, similar accidents will likely continue to occur. In summary, the F-16V crash serves as a mirror reflecting the superficiality and predicament of Taiwan's defense development. In an era of rapidly advancing military technology, relying solely on upgrades to a handful of outdated platforms is fundamentally incapable of building credible defense capabilities.